Hi everybody, Armoured Pants here, and I have another tank review for you. This time we're going to look at the M41D, the Jade, a premium tank in the Chinese line, which is now in the store for sale. As always, we will have a look at the technical details, and I'm going to try to give you as honest an opinion as possible. And as I said, we will use Blitz to look at the tech spec, etc. But I'm also going to try to discuss, the pricing and then how different this is to its tech tray equivalent, which is the M41 Bulldog, which is in the American tech tray and a tank that you can grind. Now this was of course a real tank. It is a Taiwanese variant or Republic of China Army variant of the American M41. And basically what they did was they switched out the engine and switched out the gun system. Now the Taiwanese version in reality had a much better top speed and power to weight ratio because they switched out the engine, but that's not the case with this tank compared to its tech tray equivalent. Now, in terms of provisions, I would run the Tofu, Peking Duck, and improved fuel. That's going to max out all of your performance parameters. Now, in terms of this tank, if we look at its gun system, the gun system is slightly better, right? So you are going to get about 180 better DPM than you would with the gun system on the M41, right? So that's good, and that mainly comes to the fact that you have better pen numbers. So you've got your APCRs, your standard round gives you 160 pen versus 155 on the AP round of the Bulldog. Your APCR is going to give you 220 pen compared to 200 with the heat rounds on the Bulldog. And you're going to get 38 millimeters of pen on the HE, which is the same. But you get much more damage points, so you get 260 versus 200 damage points on the HE rounds in this compared to its tech tray equivalent, and you get higher damage on your APCR Pramo round. Because bear in mind, both your Pramo and your normal round are APCR in this. So that's better. Plus heat is not as good as APCR, so you have a better Pramo round in this, right? So that's good, right? That's better. But the view range in this is not as good as the Bulldog. It's 290 meters versus 296.3 meters on the Bulldog. And if you think about light tanks, you want them to be scouting machines, right? And also the power to weight ratio is not as good either, which is weird because that's the opposite to how this tank performed in reality. So, the reload is the same, it's 3.5 seconds. Now, one thing it has a significant advantage of, and the gun system is much better, is the muzzle velocity, right? So the muzzle velocity on this thing is 1634 meters per second with your APCR, and your your APCR Pramo is 1863, which is like tier 10 muzzle velocity. So the gun handling is fantastic on this, right? So that's better too. But then it has 2 degrees less gun depression. It has 8 degrees versus 10 degrees in the Walker Bulldog, and it has 2 degrees less elevation, 18 versus 20, right? So not significant, but with a lightly armed tank, this is important. As I said, this tank does 70 kilometers per hour top speed. And it should be faster because of the modifications the Taiwanese made to the American tank, but it's not. It's actually 2.4 kilometers slower, but it has the same reverse speed, which kind of doesn't make any sense either, 24 kilometers per hour. In terms then of its power to weight ratio, so its power to weight ratio on hard terrain is 57 versus 56, so not much difference. And it's 49 against 46, which is again not much different, not significant. And it's 28 or 28.8 versus 25, almost 26. So slightly better, but not great. But its traverse speed is worse. So that kind of cancels out the power to weight ratio in terms of its overall mobility, right? So basically its traverse speed is 72 versus 83 on hard terrain, 62 versus 69 on medium terrain, and 36 versus 37 on soft terrain. So that's more or less the same. But so it's not great, right? Not great at all. And when you consider that it's supposed to be better, it's supposed to be premium tank, and its concealment numbers are more or less the same. So slightly worse, it's 233 at 304 meters, which is to be a range of an RE 251 versus 232. So this is not as good a scouting vehicle as its tech tree equivalent, right? So in that respect, it's not better. Now it has a better gun system, but it's not a better scout. So therefore, those two things kind of cancel each other out. So it's better in one respect, but it's not better in another. So therefore, is it better? Well, no, because if you're better at one thing but worse at another thing, then you're not overall better. At best, you're the same, right? So this tank is not so much better than its tech tree equivalent. It has no armor, so you saw the armor profile there. Obviously, there's no point discussing that, right? There is no armor on this or on the M41, M41 or the M41D, so it doesn't really matter, right? Now, in terms of its pricing, right? If you look at the pricing, right, so it's for sale for €27.99, right? With no equipment or anything, and if you want to get the equipment, it's $32.99, right? And which I would recommend spending the extra couple of euros if you have it, because honestly, you know, not having the equipment and stuff like that is painting the whole. You need to spend a lot of credits to get it. Plus, you get this Jade camo, which is quite nice, right? And we'll have a look at that in the gameplay. But Wargamer are saying that this is reduction, that they were going to sell it for €54.99. And somebody's smoking fucking crack, because that's fucking mental for a tier. It's €55, almost $60 for a tier 7 tank. Fucking hell, like, that's just mental. Now, I know they didn't offer it for that, but so either that's bullshit and they weren't planning to offer it for that, or they were planning to offer for that and then they decided not to. But either way, it's fucking bullshit, right? Now, we're going to have a look at some gameplay. We're going to have a look at a mastery game. Now, look, I'm going to be honest with you, right? I enjoyed playing this tank. I enjoy light tanks. You know that. You know the RU251 is my favourite tank, probably in Blitz, right? So I love playing light tanks, right? I mean, you know, I'm a pretty decent light tank player, so I enjoyed them. And this thing is definitely a great light tank, right? And you're going to see, as I said, it's a mastery game here. So it's great for getting around the map. You know, it is a good scout, but it's not as good a scout as its tech tree equivalent, right? It's also, you know, I guess the basic question is, guys, is this €33, $35 better than its tech tree equivalent? And the answer, in my opinion, is no. Now, if you have $33, $35, €33 to spend, then sure, get this tank, because it is good, it's great fun, the camo is great, and you'll enjoy it, especially if you enjoy your light tanks. But if you don't have that money, and you're wondering, well, should I, you know, spend money you don't have, or buy this in lieu of something else? Well, I would say the answer is no, because the Tech 3 equivalent, the Walker Bulldog, which you can just grind to, is just as good. It's not as good in some aspects, but it is just as good overall, and it's a better scout, better spotting vehicle than this, because of the view range that which we discussed. Also, it's better brawler because it has a better traverse speed than this, which again also doesn't make sense, because that's not historically how this tank compared to its tech tree equivalent. The Chinese engineers, Taiwanese engineers, purposely put in the new gun system and the new engine system to make it faster, have a better power to weight ratio and a better gun system, right? And this tank has the better gun system but not the other aspects. So, you know, that's sort of my overall honest opinion on this, right? So it is a very good tank. It is very enjoyable. It is a tank you would like playing. Its DPM numbers are great. Its 3.5 second reload is great. It is a good scout. But if you really want to know the question, you know, is it significantly better or different to its tech tree equivalent, which I can just get for and free to play, I would say the answer is no. And look, that's just not my opinion, because, you know, guys, I like things to be factually based. So, you know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. But facts are facts, right? You can't argue with facts. And if you look at the details of the tech spec that we've just gone through, yes, it's better at some things, but it's not as good at other things. So therefore, overall, it is at best equivalent as its tech tree counterpart. And therefore the question is, well, then is it worth spending the money? No, if you don't have the money and you want to just play a tank with this gameplay and style, get the Walker M41 Bulldog, the Tech Tree one, because it's more or less the same. Slightly better other things, but there is no significant difference that warrants the money spent. If you want to have a premium light tank in your collection for grind, because obviously this is going to be much better at grinding credits, right? Its credit coefficient is something around 170%. Then yes, you will enjoy playing this, and definitely then I would say, okay, get it, guys. So therefore, it's up to you and your financial position, but it is not, as some other YouTubers have claimed, by the way, significantly better than the M41, because when you go into the details and look at the facts, they don't bear it up. So, you know, you can have an opinion that it's better, but factually, when you look at its stats, it's not. It is, as I said, at best equivalent. So that's not saying it's a bad tank. Absolutely, it's not a bad tank. It's a great tank, and you saw that was a good game in a mastery game. Played it yesterday for the first time, really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed playing it. But in my review, I'm trying to be honest with you and to, you know, give you a very unbiased, factual-based opinion as to whether or not it's worth spending the money. So if you have the money and you want a tank, yes, and you won't regret it because it is a good tank for sure. But if you don't have the money and you want to have the same game experience but free to play, then definitely you can get that from its Tech Tree equivalent. You know, because it is an excellent light tank for sure, don't get me wrong, but it's an expensive premium tank for what it is, and there isn't that significant difference that makes it worthwhile. So guys, I hope you found that useful. I hope it helps you make up your minds. And now I guess all that remains for me to say is, as always, cheers Mush, and pants off.